at Niner rookie minicamp today, and let's go through all the different things that we saw. Now, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're soon to open in Petaluma. They're open 7 days a week. Go get that brisket. Get that brisket chili. Tell them the Krug sent you. The Krug Show is also presented by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Prize Picks is super simple. You just pick more or less on player stats or game outcomes and build your lineup. It's available in most states, including California. So if you haven't checked it out yet, use code HMA, and when you play $5, you'll get $50 in lineups instantly. And thank you to Novato Chevrolet. Go see David Corral, voted top car dealership by Carfax, family-owned for 50 years, friendly staff that meets all of your expectations, huge selection, Bay Area's EV headquarters. When I buy a Chevrolet, I buy it from David Corral at Novato Chevrolet. So should you. All right, let's talk a little bit about rookie minicamp. Fun day, beautiful day out here today, and we got a chance yesterday to talk to a lot of the rookies, and today we had a chance to talk or to watch practice and see these guys put through the paces. So let's go through what stood out good, what stood out bad, and just a few thoughts. And I don't go overly crazy on these rookie mini camps. There's no, they got helmets, but they're not wearing shoulder pads. There's no tackling. It's, football without pads. It's hard to glean a whole lot. But what you're looking for is body type and explosiveness and athleticism and conditioning and movement ability and those kinds of things. And some of those things are readily apparent even in a practice setting. So let's just get right into it. The first guy that I want to talk about is Romello Height, because I thought Romello Height, the third-round pick from Texas Tech, looked awesome. He looked awesome. He's in great shape. He wore number 94. He's like he's kind of like spindly and strong, but he's really, really kind of jacked and strong. I mean, he's very put together. This guy's 240 pounds. There's no body fat. And looking at the way his first step is just rare. I watch a lot of football players, and that first step is really something on this player. Romello Height is really impressive. They ran a number of different D-line drills today, and he led the way. And there were several times where Chris Kasarik was like, damn, it's like, but he wasn't mad. He was like, damn, that's good. And you could tell Chris loved what he saw. Height led the drills. He was the best player in the drills, and he was encouraging his teammates, but he looked explosive. He looked quick. He looked long. He had great balance, great bend, great burst. He really looked something. Now, 240 pounds, he needs to put on weight. There's no question. He needs to be closer to 250, and he'll get there. But it's, Rome wasn't built in a day. And Romello Height, though, if you're looking for special traits, man, you're going to love Romello Height because he's got special traits. He's got great burst, great first step, like one of the great first steps I've seen. This guy is just shot out of a cannon. 2 steps in, he's at full tilt. And it's fun to watch. The other guy that I really liked watching, and he wore, as I said, number 94, was Mikhail Kamara. Mikhail Kamara doesn't quite have that length. He doesn't have that same athleticism, but he's got tremendous burst. He's got tremendous quickness, great bend. He looked pretty good to me. He looked pretty natural in these pass rushing drills. Now, he doesn't have the long arms. He doesn't have the incredible, build. He's 6 feet and change, 255, 260 pounds. But you know what? He knows how to play the position. He knows how to get out of his stance. He knows where to place his hands. His hands and feet are very advanced, very coordinated. This guy had 127 pressures in college in 2024. You don't get that many pressures by, just accident. It doesn't happen. So compare him to Valdez, somebody's asking. Well, Valdez is a defensive tackle. He's a pass rushing defensive tackle, where Kamara is a defensive end. Kamara is much lighter, but quick and very, very. He's got good weight. He can contort his body. He looks like a talented edge rusher. He when you watch him in height has so much more natural raw athleticism, but when you see him side by side, you don't necessarily notice that. That's how quick and how talented Kamara is as a rusher. So I really was impressed by the outside rushers. Both Romello Height, to me, Romello Height looked the best. Of anybody out here today, I thought he looked the best. Mikhail Kamara looked really good, though, I thought. He doesn't have the incredible length. It doesn't have incredible speed, but man, or long arms. But he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, and you can see it. Deshaun Stribling. Now, Stribling is a big receiver, and when you see him up close, you're really hit by his overall size as a receiver. He's a big receiver. 6'2" and change, long arms. He looks the part. But then when you start watching him on, the short stuff and the stop and start and the immediate, the short and intermediate route running drills, and he just looked very not explosive, just very deliberate through those drills. Like he's like his quickness, he's got 4.36 speed. And that's great long speed. But I don't see that crazy quickness that makes you a good route runner in the short area or intermediate area. They got the ball to him two ways at Ole Miss. Hitches, where they got it to him right away and let him, run after the catch, and then down the field, where he ran and got open and they threw him the ball. He didn't have the most defined and refined route tree. And just watching him, in the drills on the short and intermediate route running drills, it's just very deliberate. I mean, he needs a lot of work. He needs a lot of work there. He can run he's got big vertical speed, and I can see why you'd want to get the ball in his hands at the line of scrimmage as well on hitches. But as far as like being able to run really precise routes all in the short and intermediate, I don't think he's anywhere close to like the Antonio Williamses, the Clemson receiver, who was just way more polished. I saw way more polished receivers in the short and intermediate. He's big and he's long and he's explosive, but he's slow in and out of the breaks. And he was very deliberate going through that stuff. Is that because he didn't want to make a mistake, or is that his full speed? I don't know, but it wasn't fast enough, and it wasn't smooth enough, and it needs to be faster and smoother for him to get himself open in the short and intermediate areas. Not his strength, you can see. Kalon Black caught my eye. Why? Because he caught the ball very naturally. This idea that he doesn't have a lot of receiving production at Indiana or at JMU. He had more at JMU than he had at Indiana, but he hardly ever caught the ball at Indiana. But when you watched him both in the Senior Bowl practices and today, he can catch the ball away from his body. His hands look pretty reliable. I think it's more he just wasn't asked to do that as much as he can't do that. I think he absolutely can be a receiver. What I love the most about Kalon Black, though, is the leg strength. This guy is going to push the pile. He's gonna carry defenders with him. He's going to be a very good finisher for the Niners, because in a finisher situation, you need usually what, 2 first downs? And this guy's going to be able to just grind out a couple first downs just on his desire and his rare leg strength. So Kalon Black, and I thought he caught the ball really naturally, plucked it with his hands, caught it away from his body, and really made it look quite easy. The 3 defensive tackles really shined, I thought. Grayson Halton, the 4th-round pick, and then 2 of the undrafted players, Bryson Eason and James Thompson. Let's talk about all 3. Halton, first of all, is explosive and really fast, and he's one of those guys that he's going to heat up quarterbacks from the interior. Bryson Eason is a big, big guy. I mean, you're talking about a guy with, big legs, big butt, big, strong anchoring ability. This is a guy who's going to anchor. He's a run defender. He's a converted linebacker, so there's movement ability there, and he does make some plays away from his area. But overall, I don't see him as a pass rusher at all. I think he's much more of a run defender and a run defender only. James Thompson, I thought looked really good. I mean, he showed great strength. There was a couple times he really jolted the offensive lineman back into his stance, and you heard Chris go, good shit. That was good stuff. He's really into James Thompson. Thompson doesn't have a lot of speed and moves, but he does have a lot of strength and 36 reps of 225, and you can really see it when they get into the drills. He's got great strength. Mikael Williams was there today. He was obviously still coming back from his ACL surgery, but he did work out on a side field. And I would expect that he's going to be quite a bit better in year 2 than he was in year 1. As far as transactions today, the Niners did sign 7 undrafted players as well as 6 of their 8 draft picks. Deshaun Stribling, Kalon Black, Carver Willis, Jaden Ducker, and Ephesians Prysock all signed their contracts today. And Khalil Dinkins, Mikhail Kamara, Bryson Eason, Will Pauling, Jalen Stroman, and James Thompson Jr. all also signed. Those are the undrafted free agents. The Niners had, 6 of them that they signed today, undrafted wise. So, I didn't notice Dinkins today. I was looking for him, but I did see, some of the wide receivers, and Pauling definitely has some interesting traits. He's got speed, he's got jumping ability for sure. Mikael Williams was there, but he was working out on the side. He's got an ACL injury, so that's why he wasn't working out with the team. Also, the Niners had a tryout for a number of players, and among the players that were there for tryouts today, one was Mason Pline, who, basketball player who was trying to transition to being a tight end. Niners gave him a redshirt year. They brought him back the next year. He didn't make the team. He bounced around the league a little bit last year, but you're talking about a 6'8" guy with major vertical who can jump, who can run, who's smart and can digest the offense. And I would say Mason Pline should be an interesting guy. I hope they sign him to a contract. Also working out today, Ethan Sanchez, the place kicker, University of Houston, Jack Boomeister, the Texas punter. And, we saw Brant Boyer yesterday. He kind of suggested that Boomeister would have a really good competition going with Corliss Waitman. And then he said he likes both guys, but that he thinks it's going to be a really intense competition this summer. We also, the Niners also worked out a linebacker today, Casey Osai. And Osai played at Louisiana. He's a little bit shorter at 6'1", 240 pounds, but he's an off-the-ball linebacker who can really run and hit. I'm really impressed by him. Ethan Sanchez, I mentioned, and Jake Boomeister. Sanchez, the kicker, Boomeister, the punter. Deuce Chestnut worked out, the former Syracuse corner, who's from Camden, New Jersey. Tough kid. I thought he looked pretty good. He's short. There's no question. He's 5'9", and the Niners may have to play him at safety, but I really liked what I saw from him. And to me, he looked really, really solid. A couple other guys who stood out. Drake Nugent. Last year, Drake Nugent was a little undersized as far as he lacked some upper body strength. This year, he came back and he's got, he's noticeably bigger in the upper body. And he's obviously spent some time lifting weights and building up that upper body strength. Now, if Brendel goes down, the Niners have a lot of options at center. I mean, if you look at their depth chart, they've got many, many different options they can go with at the center position. So you've got Brendel, right? But then you also have Brett Toth, you have Connor Colby, you have Drake Nugent, you have Nick Zakel, Carver Willis. They even some people would suggest that even long-term Colton McKivitz could play center. So they have a lot of centers for sure. But Drake Nugent to me looked quite a bit bigger and stronger. And then I thought Wesley Grimes, the rookie receiver from NC State, looked really explosive. He's 6'2", he's 195 pounds, but he could take a hit and he's got, difference-making speed for sure. So that's really what stood out. I mean, it was Romello Height looked amazing to me. Romello Height looked like the kind of guy that you might be able to put out there with the ones. He might be a starter. He's got that high level explosiveness The bend, the burst, and the explosion for height, really off the charts. Stribling, looks good running around, but very slow and deliberate in and out of the breaks on the short and intermediate routes. And you can tell he hasn't done a lot of it, and that he needs more work on that. Kalon Black caught the ball like a guy who caught it his entire college career. All three defensive tackles, Grayson Halton, James Thompson, and Bryson Eason, all look strong. Eason looked better as a run defender. Halton looked way better as a pass defender. And Thompson looks like a combination. He has got strength in his hands, but he also has got quickness to get to the quarterback. And then as far as the workouts, Casey Osai from Louisiana, Mason Pline from Furman, from Fayetteville, Ethan Sanchez, the kicker, Jack Boomeister, the punter, Deuce Chestnut, the corner / safety. All of those guys I thought looked pretty good. Nugent is way stronger up top, and Wesley Grimes looks really explosive and kind of tough for a guy who runs 4.35. Usually the 4.3 guys are oftentimes fragile. Wesley Grimes didn't look fragile to me. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Crew Show. Thank you to Prize Picks. And of course, thank you to Novato Chevrolet. And thanks to you guys for supporting the Crew Show on YouTube.